Welcome to this week's episode of Marijuana Mind with yours truly, Dr. Jay Davis, my rhabdomancer co-host, Cynthia Brewer.
Ooh, my David.
That's right, I come prepared.
Dude,
And
I
Yes,
was in the
$7
shower.
words.
I know. I was in the shower this morning. I was like, Cynthia, you are not going to say anything at the beginning until Justin does his intro, no matter
can't
how
help
long he
ourselves.
waits after the recording stops, because he does this on purpose.
No,
And
see, you
you're
have
not
to
going
have
to
a
say
pause
anything.
because otherwise, when it shows you at the beginning, your mouth is open or you're in some awkward.
Justin, it's a podcast. People can't see you.
But when we broadcast, there's always a picture of it.
Okay, so since the YouTube became more of a popular outlet,
Mhm.
Justin has been taking longer pauses for his intro because he doesn't want a gaping open mouth to be some sort of suggestive, like this isn't, not very attractive. Is that
You don't
it?
want to get turned into a meme.
Oh,
Exactly.
he has no idea how
Unless
many
you can,
memes
unless you
I've
can put it
already
on
made.
a cup and a T-shirt and sell it like Trump's done his mugshots,
Rich,
then I don't
let
mind the
me
meme
just
or
tell
two.
you, I have turned Justin into an avatar, into Braveheart, into Forrest Gump, into it on these video apps where I just take one headshot and it turns it into a whole preview. And I send it to him, and he still thinks that he's gonna beat the meme by shutting his mouth at the appropriate time.
I have
I don't
gotten
know.
the most compliments on the one with the neck tattoos.
I know you have no idea how much these bitches love Justin Davis with the face tattoos.
I know
Like you
I'm
look
thinking
like
maybe I
Post
need to get
Malone's
some
older
facial tattoos.
brother.
Yeah, I
You
was
look
gonna say you
like Doc
got the Post
Malone.
Malone thing going. Yeah.
They love it. These women are going crazy online for it. I feel like we've gained more listeners because of the fake face tattoos when you were getting your hair cut.
There you
Well,
go.
speaking of that, maybe I should introduce our
I know
guests.
he's like family already. Go ahead, do it.
All right, so in case you haven't gotten it yet, this is Rich Batenburg, sometimes known as Richard, but we're going to call him Rich, and it's actually Rich the second out of three, right?
Best
R2,
2 out of 3.
but a graduate of Colorado State in psychology. He's now been a serial entrepreneur, if I can say it correctly, in the cannabis world. In addition to being the CEO and chairman of Clear Cannabis Inc., you're also the I guess I don't know exactly what your role is, but I know that I think you run somehow bonsai cultivation and the Cliintel Capital Management private equity fund group that also specializes in cannabis.
I love
Yeah.
how detailed you are on your maybes, kind ofs. Like he really did his homework today, Rich. But
What
you
is your
are,
Yeah.
role in although these are of lesser importance, the bonsai cultivation and Clientele Capital Management, what is your role in those?
So I'm the chairman of Bonsai Cultivation, which is a large indoor grow here in Colorado. And I am the fund manager of at Clientele Capital, which is a private equity fund or venture
Okay.
capital fund.
but you're
And I
really
didn't,
known for your work with
yeah, I
the
didn't
clear
mean lesser
cannabis.
importance, but we were probably going to concentrate more on the Clear Cannabis Inc.
Yeah, well, they're all kind of integrated because in cannabis, the first thing you need is money, and then more time and more money. So the venture capital firm is important from a standpoint of raising money and looking at projects. But yeah, most of my time is spent as the CEO of Clear Cannabis. The other portion of it is I'm also the chairman of Clear Colorado Group, which is the lab that makes the Clear and the Clear family of products here in Colorado. It's another separate company. So in fact, that's where I am today. So I have my red badge on.
I see that. You're so official. You're
Yeah.
so like, one of the rest of us kind of thing. He
Well,
clocks in
I am
tomorrow.
actually in the lab today. So
What was the advantage of separating the lab and then the financial part of it?
the primarily we divided the assets into plant touching assets or
Mhm.
entities and non-plant touching entities.
Do you think that
So
makes it a little bit more warm and fuzzy for people that are investing in the cannabis industry, that you have the option to be a plant touching investor versus a non?
Or safer?
Well,
um
yeah.
warm and
Warm and fuzzy is like a personal a personal feeling, not
Yeah.
necessarily the
But
true flavor.
legally safer is probably
I
what.
think warm and fuzzies is a legal term.
Well, I mean, um, it depends on the person, obviously, and the time frame that you're talking about. So, when I first got into cannabis on this level, was in 2014, and back then, investors, everybody wanted to be in. There were various reasons. Some were, believers in the medicinal qualities and effects that the plant can give them, and quite frankly, others just wanted to be bad boy drug dealers, so they wanted to invest. Over the years, obviously, that's changed as things have unfolded, and you see how difficult this business really is.
I still want to be a drug dealer. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just haven't grown out of that bad boy mentality.
You just want the
But
backpack.
yeah, that's the dream. Is I want to go revert back to like having a skateboard, a JanSport. We've talked about this. I want to be like low key, kind of greasy, and named
Yeah.
Derek, and deliver weed on, efficiently, somewhat effectively on a skateboard.
There
So
you go.
I was
Yeah.
doing my research when I was trying to study up on our guest today, and I really, when you look at the profile on LinkedIn, it doesn't do you justice. One, your profile photo, we've talked about this earlier, and for all the listeners who can't see him, I highly suggest you go to YouTube and see this guy. He's got the magic formula. He looks younger in person than he does in his profile photo, and I told him that, which is a great skill to have. But
Flattery will get you everywhere. So
I try. I am not beyond anything. Trust me. I am all about it. I'm probably gonna just ask you for a free hat. Like seriously. But I didn't really understand when I saw the company, and it's just like almost like a quick flash on your LinkedIn. But if you go and you dig a little deeper, your company is big. You own a very large, successful cannabis company that's won multiple awards in various markets year after year, like for your pre-rolls, for your vapes, for your infused products, your gummies, best new product. I mean, every year it seems like you keep winning these awards, and even a cannabis cup in 2022.
Yep.
That's actually that's a big achievement for a company that was founded in 2013, where that's considered a long time ago in cannabis years. So
yeah, shit, yeah, in cannabis years, that's like 100 years.
yeah, you're almost the OG of cannabis.
Well, I I have been very fortunate to surround myself with some very, very um, uh, first mover OGs like Chris Barone and Courtney Maltese and Brian Maltese and Chase Martin, who were the four people that actually invented the Clear back in 2013. At Bonsai, in particular, Tom Stevenson, who's been a grower for a long, long time, probably longer than it's been legal.
Shout out Tom for being a badass.
It's all about the people. We have kept a lower profile from the standpoint of staying private and taking private equity investments. Our objective, I've been, as Davis said, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, done a lot of different things, and over the years, I've learned that going public is great, or it can be. It's also very difficult, and it presents a whole another set of challenges. But what I did learn was, if you build a fundamentally sound business, you can't go wrong. there's investing in hype, which is what has happened to what I call the Canadian clown car of companies who have literally burned billions with a B dollars, and they have nothing left to show for it because people were not investing in a fundamentally sound plan or business or leaders. It was all about like a giant game of old maid. How do I build this thing, get a bunch of money, and exit? So,
Like the
I've been lucky enough.
boom.
Yes,
I love these
well, it was the same
analogies.
mentality. It's the
Am
same
I the
mentality.
only one who loves these analogies? Old maid, like the dee 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 lee lee dee, like circus clown car thing. Like I'm loving this. I can totally follow along. This is very elementary, almost crayon-like. But like what you said is, having the choice between going public and keeping it private. That's a big decision. That's almost kind of a goal for a lot of cannabis companies to be considered a public of, on I guess the New York Stock Exchange, and not so much just TSX or something in a different, area, but to be able to have your company hosted on the, here in America. Why would that not be incredibly insatiable for you to want?
Well, I've done it before, not in cannabis, but in entertainment business. A company I took public was an entertainment company, comedy clubs, radio stations, record companies, film production, and Travelog Video in particular was our product line. And we took that company public through a reverse merger. So I did all this stuff back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it ain't all that's cracked up to be. Like I said, it comes with a different set of challenges. It was fun at the time, but it is not the panacea of nirvana that many think it's going to be. And in a very real sense, the whole notion of being public has been perverted by the financial industry. There's just like a service-based business does not really need to be public. The whole point of going public, back in, days of yore, 100 years ago, was because you needed to raise a bunch of money to buy equipment that had a long lifespan and a really long depreciation amortization schedule. And it made some sense because it was at scale. If you have a consulting company, your product is people's brains, and not only do they not have a lifespan that you can determine, you don't actually own them ever. So, cannabis is kind of in the middle. There's not a lot of big agricultural companies that go public. Obviously you got Monsanto and chemical companies that really have become agricultural companies, Dole and those kinds of companies. But you're talking about the roll up over literally 100 years to, and everybody's trying to do what agriculture has done over the last 150 years in cannabis, like in 150 days. It's crazy. And, there's no business process around cannabis, and it at least in the mid-teens when it really became a boon. Nothing existed for this industry. So the rush to become public, like the Canadian companies did, has resulted in unstable, fundamentally unsound businesses. And that's really no surprise to anybody who can sit back and not fall prey to the fear of missing out.
Although the top tier,
FOMO. He just dropped a FOMO on us, you guys.
the top tier of those companies, though, I'm sure became ultra wealthy, and then maybe left the company to falter.
Sure. I don't think Bruce Litton is looking through his couch for quarters to get an Uber. So
he's not eating SpaghettiOs. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's gonna make it. Well,
So,
it's almost a very. Go ahead.
There's plenty of people who did well by getting out in and out. I mean, I'm not saying it was necessarily personally a bad plan for them, but it was certainly not good for the investors.
And it wasn't for your company, because you had the capital kind of at your disposal, because you prepared everything that way, which is incredibly smart, and I would say comforting. I feel like that would make me feel a lot better if I had the capital already available if I needed it right there.
Well, I was able to take my portfolio and move it around to invest in cannabis first ahead of my investors. And I mean, back in 2014 and 15, when my son, the third, Rick, left Merrill Lynch, I really hadn't planned on raising money and getting this deep into it, but he really he had been doing new issues at Merrill Lynch for a few years, and he was like, "I think we can raise this money, Dad." And I was like, "Oh God!" I swore off going public back in 1994 when I left the entertainment company. But there were some good reasons at the time, because it was the deal heat was real, and the promise of cannabis was being fulfilled, at least from a tax base for states and local municipalities, and everybody was thrilled for the most part, and the stigma was coming off. So there were a lot of those things in line. What wasn't in line was business process
Mhm.
and analytical tools and people in the business to support it. And, I mean, you guys know back then lawyers were charging 2 and 3x what they would normally
Oh
charge, and
yeah, real estate was
crazy.
high. Banks are difficult to work
I,
with, and
I got a bid for a warehouse build from an electrician who 48 hours later figured out that it was a grow, and he came back and revised his bid, and it was 5 times more expensive. The scope didn't change. It
no
was just that it was he figured out it
ex
was a marijuana deal. It's
exploiting the
crazy.
cannabis industry, because we're all just kind of rolling in extra cash,
Yes. Yeah.
That's what we do. We just print
Yeah.
money.
That's
And
right.
we
Because
don't
we're
have
drug dealers, we operate completely outside
oh,
the law.
So
one day.
speaking about rolling and product and all of that, your company you have multiple companies we've established, but
But the Clear Cannabis is the
the
main. I
Clear
mean,
Cannabis, one of the things that's really set it apart since 2013, its inception, is the high quality products that it's adhered to producing. So can you talk a little bit about that and
Sure.
yeah,
how
Sure.
you're
like the
doing that?
molecular distillation process, I thought was incredibly interesting from the
Mm.
scientific perspective.
Yeah. So when I got in 2014, 15, and 16, I had grows and stores and labs here in Colorado, and was looking for a way to come up with a consumer packaged good promise, with a cannabis product. At that time, it was really about flower. And being a student of measurement and testing, as you said, my degree is in psychology. My concentration was industrial organizational, in particular in measurement and testing. So, and then with my media background, I was very much into the data of how do we actually grow a plant from room to room, building to building, state to state, crop to crop, genus to genus, and have it be the same in a consumer packaged good way. When you buy an Oreo in Europe, it's the same as the one you bought in Nebraska, right? So that's what I was after. Is okay, can
Food
we
fidelity.
control Mother Nature in a way that we can produce flour? And after a year and a half of trying to do that, I realized that Mother Nature's in charge, and she's going to whip a joke on you whenever she can. And there's certain things that you just can't control. So I could never get a plant to be consistently within less than 3 standard deviations of
Hmm.
potency and compound, even on the same plant, let alone plant to plant in the same room.
But
So I went into the vape category.
doesn't that show in itself almost trend and like repeat data right there, that the plant itself will not be exactly the same over and over again, but it will be
Correct.
consistently different?
Yes, and that's why we went into the vape category, because in
You
the
do have
vape
more
we can,
control.
yeah, absolute control. And then further we went to our Chris had invented the whole distillate process with the clear. I ran into we were trying to do our own vape products by formulation and flirting around with our original line was called Escape. It had an aeronautical theme, and
Oh,
we
adorable.
had takeoff and cruising and
Oh
landing, and
yeah, because you're getting
so
high
yes,
elevation. Yeah, I like it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
Good,
the
creative.
it's very
So
quippy cannabis.
well, I mean, looking for a brand and a brand promise, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to get every time, time in and time out. So we ran into the Clear because they had a licensee here in Colorado. We got to meet Chris and Courtney and Chase and Brian, and what they had done in addition to coming up with a process to purify in really a pharmaceutical grade type of process, purify the THC and then add back botanically derived, so natural terpenes, but non-cannabis derived terpenes. It's easier to get limonene from a lime. It's
Right.
in much higher concentrations and it doesn't cost, 30 at the time $3,200 a pound like cannabis did, right? So they had at the time 19 different flavors that make up what we call our Clear original line of products, and they had spent a lot of time uh, in testing, coming up with the flavors like Golden Goat and XJ13 and Death Star OG and lemon lime and lemon haze and orange cream, lime sorbet, and so they had all these flavors because they were working with a flavorist, they were working with a chemist, they were working with an engineer, working with a botanist. They were all living together like in a commune type building where they had to grow,
I
and
love
they
it.
figured all this stuff out. So I had the great fortune to meet them, and shocking to them, I'm sure, when I first showed up in the suit, and and they
He's a
are,
narc. They probably were
yeah,
like, this guy's
well,
a narc. He's a cop.
yeah, and Chris, I don't know if I mean, you guys really should interview Chris Barone, but so Chris is kind of the lead guy. He's the organic chemist. I mean, it's a big day for Chris if he's wearing pants that come down to his ankles and he's got shoes on. So here I am in my suit and
Suit in your cannabis
tie.
suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Very acceptable cannabis wear. Yeah.
And over the course of time, he was unique as an OG, and he is a true OG. He really understood the where we needed to go as a business, as an industry, to be compliant, regulated, tax paying, upstanding, if you will, citizens, and the business acumen it takes to actually run and scale a business. So together, he brought the ethos. He and his team, Courtney, Brian, and Chase, they brought the ethos and formulas, and I basically brought the money and the business acumen. And we started administrating their existing licensing program in 2017. In 2019, we rolled up a bunch of our non-plant touching companies along with the licensing program, and we bought the intellectual property from Chris and his team, and we created the company we call Clear Cannabis now. So that was a consolidation of a hardware company, a packaging company, a training company, the licensing, the sales and marketing organization, the data analytics, and financial services piece. So we put that all together and called it Clear Cannabis. So Clear Cannabis doesn't touch plants. It just does R&D, marketing support. It would work like a franchise. I could call it that if we weren't still, sadly, federally illegal. So as franchising is a federal structure. So what we do is we license our intellectual property processes, marketing and sales talents and support
And you're
to
to different
licenses across
states,
the country.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
So we're currently in 11 states.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I only had 9.
Okay.
So California, Colorado, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, Oklahoma, Nevada, Montana, New Mexico.
You got Arkansas
No.
and Mississippi.
Okay. So I'll allow it.
Mississippi's launching like next week, but
Mississippi's
time.
that state's a whole interesting little conundrum there.
Seems like
I think
you
The
would
only
be
ones they're the only ones able to do research.
Do they have a lab?
The Mississippi operator actually is also our licensee for Oklahoma and New Mexico.
That's
It's the same
interesting.
company. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would
They have
be
operations in different states.
a perfect fit for Florida because we're, vertically integrated,
That's
and
what I was thinking.
many of the companies could use your technology or your intellectual property to produce better products.
100%.
We've been talking to a bunch of them. Typically, Florida is certainly on the roadmap, as is all the rest of the states, but in particular, Florida, New Jersey, New York, and Illinois are have been the latest white whales we've been chasing. But Florida's situation with being vertically integrated is a little bit calls for us to adjust our model. We typically go in and license somebody, and they basically do wholesale. So our model's built on being able to sell to all the dispensaries. So, as we get bigger, there are entities in Florida who probably will take us more seriously, hopefully.
If you need help, we got you. We
Would-
got you.
Well,
and I got you in New York too, if you need help in New York.
It's really about finding the right partner, because we've kissed and licked and married many toads.
You don't need to kiss or lick or do whatever else you do to anybody else's feet ever again. Because yes, you are correct. It's about you want to get with a company that's going to have longevity, be able to scale, be able to do right by your product, because you've spent so much time making this into something sustainable, scalable, and it's been crazy successful. So people dig it.
It's really dependent on the partner
putting the work in.
Well, and believing in our brand and our commitment to quality, as you started with the question, Justin, was, we could make the product cheaper. We could race to the bottom. We choose, like when Oklahoma, in particular, Oklahoma, Michigan, and California, people were giving stuff away. They were selling vape pens for less than our empty hardware costs.
That's awesome.
So I was like, well, we're done until this bounces off the bottom, because I'm not going to use crappy carts. I'm not going to use crappy oil. So that's really how the Twax product line was born, which is, an infused flower. So we spent almost 2 years perfecting the infusion and terping process and the grading process, and then we found a really great partner in Roll Pros. So in most states, as they get mature, we use a cigarette style joint as opposed to a cone. The machine's kind of expensive. The company's out of Washington State, but Roll Pros, the machine's called the Blackbird. It is expensive. It rolls them. They look just like cigarettes. And so, especially for an infused joint, they smoke great, because the cone is really, it's good for filling and manufacturing, but it's really a crappy way to consume a joint, particularly one that's been infused with any kind of distillate or diamonds or caviar or anything like that, because it gets all, it's like the bottom of your bong after you haven't cleaned it for a couple of months.
I wonder how that would work with a cone to have. So
Sucks.
That's another prevention.
It doesn't work.
Florida market. The Florida market doesn't allow for infused products.
Right.
And so that wouldn't even be allowed here. But so you found the way that to make it more portable so that you don't have to roll this thing up. We do have somebody here that has a 2-gram pre-roll that they sell, which I'm like, how do you carry that brick around with you just to I guess it's more at home. But what you're talking about is efficiency for the markets that allow infused products by not using the tapered cone, which wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we do a 1.25 infused joints to launch the Twax product in states so that they can set up a market and before they go invest in a very expensive machine. Any smaller than 1.25 in a cone, though, it's not going to smoke, right? So
they have to buy
our
the
pride,
machine?
they do.
Okay. from that place in
Our
Washington.
partner does. I mean, we have other structures that can lease it or whatever, but before you invest in this, I mean, the machine's like almost $300,000. But then it's the tech to run it because there's nothing else like it. It's not packing
Yeah.
cones. It rolls it just like you would roll a joint. There's a belt and it's sexy as hell. You can go and look at it on.
I'm totally
on
into this
YouTube.
right now. You've
Yeah.
got me locked in. But it's like you said, you don't want to partner with anybody who doesn't believe in the corporate mindset, which means you're going to buy the damn machine. You're not going to rent it. You're going to do it the sexy way. You're going to put the time in. You're going to put the 1.25 in, and you're not going to give me any lip about it. I kind of dig that. I kind of dig that structure because that
because we test, because I own the lab. I'm the licensee in Colorado, so we test everything here in Colorado. And so when we are ready to release it to our partners, we've already fucked up what we can. We make mistakes, and but the idea is hopefully we've made all the really big mistakes here in Colorado, but we figured out everything from the manufacturing process down through the testing and the pricing and the packaging, the marketing, the sales pitch. And so when you're, and that's the value of paying us a royalty, right? Is when I give you a line, it's done, right? The only thing that's left to customize really is, pricing,
packaging.
analysis in that state, and then honoring whatever crazy packaging requirements and labeling in each individual state.
So let's say, one of the newly licensed companies in Florida, they need to get started and they want to have a high quality product and compete. Would that be the kind of company that would come to you and say, can you get us going?
Yes. That's
give them the leg up. But is there a way to cater your program or your products? Maybe they don't do the Twax products in Florida because they can't have infused, but they can really benefit from the consistency of the clear products with like their vapes. But you also did say something that was really resonating with me, as far as you have a hard time finding brand partners that believe in the quality and the integrity of the product as much as you do, which is funny because seeing the stuff on the instrumentation here in Florida in the testing lab space, which is what I'm in, and Justin's in the physician space, but the product integrity sometimes slips a lot.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah,
well, and that comes from economic pressures typically, and quite frankly, especially when a state first legalizes, most of the first movers have been in the business longer than it's been legal. So they have habits and skill sets that really, apart from cultivation expertise, are not applicable. So they don't really understand marketing and the importance of really being compliant, and like carrying insurance and paying your taxes and
giving
doing
a
marketing.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not that they're stupid. By no means do I want to
Nope.
infer that. It is that the skill set that they bring is there's just a whole bunch of things that that are no longer applicable. Like, avoiding detection is the opposite of marketing. So, if you've spent your career in the illegal market, you really don't understand marketing. I mean, back in,
It's
when
still
you're
kind of
in the
odd,
illegal
though.
market, it's, hey, do you have weed?
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever kind of fully get out of that, because even though we're allowed to talk about weed, but we still get kind of like shadow banned on some social media, and we're just a podcast. We're not slinging anything. We don't advertise for anybody. And we talk shit about everyone equally, I think.
Yeah.
Like we're equal opportunity.
And we're not being banned on account of your potty mouth either.
No. Because when I post this on YouTube and stuff, and when we post it on Apple, it has a little E for like, explicit language. They should just put Cynthia, like, I make sure kids don't listen to it on YouTube. I say, this is not kid friendly at all. Nudity, smoking, violence, like I just try and add all of it.
Yeah. Well, I spent 10 years in the comedy club business. So, I slip into, hard case, so we say, quite easily.
Well, I think it's funny that there are with your history in like entertainment, finance, and then cannabis, like it's you see people that kind of dabble in cannabis after really getting to know the financial industry. Your son, Merrill Lynch, that's something where like you have to devote your whole entire being to that, because that's how you become a really good financial advisor or hedge funding hedges or whatever hedge. But if everybody I know from the financial industry that came into cannabis, they were in it for like years and years. And then they come into this very like kind of illicit kind of, we're getting there. And they kind of still talk very quietly and look over their shoulder when they talk about what they do for a living. But
Right, right. Well, I mean, I did when I first got in, of course. I started, it was just passive or they were supposed to be passive investments I was making because I was still doing big data analytics software company for our customers were big cable, Comcast, Charter, Cox, Bright House, Time Warner, so when I first got in, it was, the banks were crazy about it. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
don't tell anybody, it's so. Um, but I've learned that it's just better to be upfront about it. We are who we are. We are a responsible, compliant operator that has partnerships in all these different states. Our products are safe, they're consistent, they're reliable. And if it's not for you, then it's not for you. But they're I think you're lacking some insight if
Mhm.
you really still think that there's no difference between heroin and cannabis, then you're sorely lacking in having a white belt mentality and opening your mind and actually reading studies that are peer reviewed and not full of a secondary agenda because of some uh, uh, morality that you're trying to legislate on
And the
people.
hypocrisy that that person probably goes home and has a few cocktails every night
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, I
is fine
can't tell
with
you how
smoking a
many.
cigar.
They
Yes,
came
I cannot tell you how many pitch meetings I had over drinks, of course,
before 4
where
p.m.
a middle-aged investor has got scotch in one hand telling me how, I might be interested in investing, but I'd never used the product.
Yeah, I
Okay.
love it. It's like Mad Men, but then he'll kind of hit on the waitress also. Like it's
Yes.
fun. It's like banking meets cannabis is very entertaining to watch. But that there's two different things I wanted to get both of your opinions on. They are current events and they have some relation to what you were talking about as far as product integrity. There was a study that was conducted about heavy metals that were found in cannabis users in excess of about 20 something percent higher than the average person. They did not, however, note the method of delivery of the people that participated in the study. So it could have been inhalation via combustible flower. It could have been vapes. It could have been edibles. They just said they partook in, cannabis activities, and it was over a very large amount of time.
How
And they
were
saw
they how were they testing them for the heavy metals? Through blood?
urine and blood.
Okay.
And they saw over 20% increase in cannabis users for lead and cadmium. So
Right.
what are your thoughts
So
on that? I said method of delivery should definitely have been documented, because if it was vaping, the cartridges could be the culprit.
you're exactly right, in
Thank you
my
so much.
humble opinion. I would back up even one step further and say, were they purchasing at from a regulated, tested,
Yes.
certified dispensary
It says they
and
were.
not even growing their own, right? So, we had heavy metal problems with the outdoor grows here in Colorado a couple of years ago because of the California fires, and the smoke came and landed on the plants. It's not a plant that you can wash like an apple. So, so you're testing hot for heavy metals and arsenic and those kinds of contaminants. I would say if they were buying vapes from a reliable tested source, they were buying not mine, because they were buying from somebody who's using shitty carts, and there's some leaching going on, or so that cheap weed that you're buying may be the most expensive weed that you ever purchased, right? I'm a bigger fan of manufactured products. Obviously, that's mostly what we do. Stuff that's been processed is tested for heavy metals. So,
Hmm.
there's no way that you are gonna be that kind of profound outlier if you're consuming particularly manufactured post-processed goods that are
What,
tested several times.
It
Rich, what
was
are the heavy metals that are typically found in poorly made vape cartridges?
Um,
mercury, arsenic, lead, and cadmium.
Arsenic is the big one. Lead and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
That's what
And
we test for in Colorado and Mass. The only other state that's different is New York. Has us testing for nickel and um oh my gosh,
It's
it's not
that's
zinc, it's not copper, it's like something else.
cesium.
another, it's a C. I think it's cesium or something like that. I don't
Oh
know.
my
So,
gosh, it's something weird. But so they're gonna ease up on the nickel
Cadmium.
apparently, but it's no, oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy. So, but most labs throughout our corporate group, it's the four main ones, which is lead, cadmium, mercury, and arsenic, and they'll change it action levels based off of method of delivery, inhalation versus non. Because a
But
topical can be imported into the United States, the base from another
you
country,
get
with
lead.
20 ppm of lead, and that's completely reasonable for cosmetics. And then it goes into a medical product that we then say can't have more than 0.2 ppm. Well, then you're going to fail, but it's a topical. Menthol, like you have to have a carrier to get cannabis THC through the epidermis into the dermis, and that's going to be like menthol, and that's going to fail some solvents sometimes. And these are all completely safe. However, we haven't really caught up to topicals versus inhalables in Florida.
is anybody testing the vape carts though, the
Some
delivery
people
devices?
we do leaching studies up in Colorado. Colorado's definitely the R&D state, as he was mentioning too, right?
Yes. Yeah. And well, California's been pretty aggressive on crush testing and stuff like that. I mean, there's so much to unpack that you laid out there, Christy. There's the leaching,
Hmm.
which has to do with the quality of the cart. There's the cart itself. There's the formulation of the oil that goes in that may be a catalyst to facilitate or exacerbate leaching. There's the shelf life study. You know, and then of course there's what got cut in the post processing and the short path process or the wipe process, what got extracted from the plant in the first place, what was in the plant that when it was grown in the field or in the indoors. So there's a lot of test points that I think Colorado has the most consistently uh, comprehensive test of final goods. So, we're testing for microbials and mycotoxins and heavy metals and pesticides, and, you know, um, and it's clean, or you don't go on the shelf. It's just not any more complicated than that. But,
So
there's,
if you're a consumer, let's say in Florida, so I can't legally use your products, for example, because I'm
right.
limited to the Florida products. What would be the best safeguard against using a contaminated vape cartridge, or one that's going to be not
First,
contaminated?
you want to look at the cart itself,
Mhm.
and visually you can inspect to see, just, I mean, it's good old fashioned how cheap is it? Is the window, is it glass or is it plastic? That's one thing. That's the first thing we look at. We don't use anything plastic. Yes, there's been great advances in plastics, but in general, because you're
Mhm.
buying this stuff from China, so you got to find the right manufacturer, and you're going to pay if it's it's how you tell what's good in America, right? It costs more. So you want to look at the electronics and the components. Look at the quality of the machining around the threading of a 510 cart. If you're seeing flaking, stop. So
Cancer
What
on a
about
stick at that
color?
point.
I want
yeah,
to.
well, if there's inconsistencies, particularly in the metal components, where you can see wavy stuff, it's something that's been struck or cast, and it's probably not going to be bonded correctly and sealed. So, the best way to do it is obviously to buy from somebody who can give you a certificate of authenticity that includes not only the testing of the material, but the hardware itself, that it's been crush tested
We don't have that in Florida, right?
Not a single person. Well, that's what I love, the fact that he said that, and I hate the fact that he's not in Florida. So, but I mean, we have a lab in Colorado and
Yep.
Massachusetts, and you're in Mass and Colorado and in Nevada, so we have these areas in common. But I wish you were here to do that, because right now it is a privilege to be provided a COA, not a right.
I
So
thought that a new rule was passed that you have to
it's
provide.
coming. It was supposed to be already in effect, where you have to provide the full 7-page COA to every patient, not upon request, but upon purchase. Like once you
Right.
buy the product, you get the COA, the end. Not jumping through hoops or getting a shaman to give it to you or whatever.
Right.
And it can't just be patient friendly, page 1, page 2, terpenes and potency profiled with the summary. It has to be everything. So if there's a little bit of lead, yeah, people might freak out for a second, for a heartbeat, but you educate them. What he's doing is he's not just taking the basic things that every patient should have, which is the COA, which is certificate of analysis, proving that the product is legitimately safe for human consumption. You're talking about providing them with the integrity of the delivery device also being vetted and appropriately safe for human interaction or consumption, correct?
Right. That's right.
Why would you do that? Why would you give a fuck?
Because I'm trying to build a sustainable business that's here long after me. We're trying to be Nabisco.
He's
I'm
trying
not
to
just
get
trying.
like Rick the
I'm,
Sixth.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Batenburg Sixth.
I believe that, and it may be, at my peril or at my financial disadvantage in the short term, but at the end of I've done fine with all the things that I've done. I've been very, very lucky. So,
You're not eating SpaghettiOs. He's not looking for
no,
change in the couch like
no,
that other guy.
no. And my wife is also an earner. She's an executive at Liberty, so media. So I mean, worst comes to worst, I can be a house husband. But what we're trying to build is an entity that is above all trustworthy on all levels, not just a product level, but a product roadmap level, and has integrity with our products. When we have a no questions asked return policy. It's things that other companies don't do. I think because they're more. I don't think they're bad people. Some, obviously there's bad actors in every industry, but we don't have a higher percentage of bad actors. I know a lot of people like to believe that because many came from the illicit market, but it's simply a matter of impatience and or greed for wanting to make money fast and retire, and that is not unique to the cannabis industry. Everybody wants their 15 minutes on YouTube, and everybody thinks they can beat Beyonce if they can sing.
I feel like I could be Beyonce, and don't crush my dreams, Rick. Jesus.
Hey,
but also
you can, but you got to focus on that, and you got to do the work. And I used to manage comics, so I can tell you that, you
You-
know, you can use toil in silence and grief and with top ramen if you're lucky for years to become an overnight success. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in.
My grandmother always said I should be a comedian.
Yeah,
She
well,
always said I should be doing stand-up. And I was like, all right, Nana.
well, I can hook you up if you're in Colorado because you know,
I don't think I
club.
could cut it. I just
The,
made her laugh. I didn't make everybody laugh.
No,
well,
you make
that's, you know,
everyone
it'll be the
laugh.
longest 2 minutes of your life the first time you go on stage.
I just
But
don't want to bomb. Yeah, I'll totally do it. I'll do it once. Why not?
you got to bomb to do well.
I have a question about that, but before I ask about that, I want to go back for a second. And as a physician, you know, this is important to me. Is there a particular kind of vaping apparatus that is generally superior and safer than others, like the magnet ones that, you know, that 710 Lab sells or something? Are those safer in general?
Careful how you
Um,
answer this, because
the,
just because somebody maybe uses the safer vape cartridge does not
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's a safer product inside.
there's
Justin.
yeah, like we were talking about, there's a lot of components, but you know, I believe that you know, I'll just say what our preference is as the Clear. So like I said earlier, we use glass where appropriate as opposed to plastic. We use surgical grade metals as opposed to other options. We use ceramics where possible for mouthpieces and that kind of thing. So there are, you know, our vendors are our stuff comes from China, like just about everybody's, but you know, our vendors are put through very rigorous testing. They have very low failure rates. They are not by any means anywhere near the cheapest hardware. So, you know, like I said earlier, it's kind of a joke. It's how you tell what's good in America. It's going to cost more, but you know, if you're buying a $5 vape pen that's a gram or $10, I would say that's probably not the safest decision that you can
I
make.
just did that. I just did that
Yeah,
before
do
the
not do that. Do not do that. You know,
But the
yeah.
savings, Rich.
Short-term
Well,
savings.
what, you know, there was a great you know, Bell motorcycle helmets.
Yes, actually, I
They're
have
very
one. That's the one
okay.
I
So
use.
they're
Why?
very expensive, right? They used to have a
No,
commercial
they're
that
pretty
said, you know,
affordable.
if you, yeah, well, they used to have a commercial that said, if you got a $10 head, buy a $10 helmet.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, there are cheaper options, but like I thought after seeing some of the helmets out there, mine is a Bell. So I'm glad that I've got
We're
one
gonna get
that's
a
gonna
show and
keep.
tell here, I think, Cynthia.
I know.
Yeah.
I think he's
So,
gonna send us free products or something.
well,
I heard that.
well, you know, you have to talk to, maybe you talk to Stephen Goldman and he can get you some of our
Do you
stuff.
know Steven?
Yeah, I'm on the board at Colorado Leads with him. So
How did
I
you
don't know
just
how
now put
good.
this all together?
So, well, I saw you were at Catches, so I was like, yeah. So this, I don't know how good you can see the color of
We
this,
can totally see
but
the color. It looks great.
Oh.
okay.
Nice
So
hue.
this is as dark as we get, right? This is a secret formula. It's actually lemon lime, but the terpenes that we add back to this are darker. So if you have oil that's darker than this, there's stuff in it that should have been cut out.
What if
Okay.
it's an RSO product?
All of mine
Well,
is
that's a different, entirely different process. So, you know, if you're talking about that kind of whole plant extraction,
RSO is supposed to be, right? Because we're
it
talking
is.
like very elementary extraction. It's not going through a bunch of processes. You could do it at home even.
Yeah, that's
I think that's how
yeah.
it started, Rick Simpson.
So yes, it's exactly what we did. If you're using that kind of whole plant thing, then it's your input material that you have to make sure is clean. So if you're just buying weed and taking it home and putting it in a levo or, you know, a coffee machine, there's lots of ways to do home extraction, right? But if you don't know where it came from, you don't know how it was grown, and it's not tested,
Hmm.
you're taking the same kind of risks. So You know,
All
if
of
you're
mine are
buying,
darker than yours by
yeah,
significantly.
yes,
I didn't want to bring it on the camera because it's pretty telling whose it is, but
yeah,
I just purchased and it's significantly darker than yours.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so our
Oxidized.
thing is, our thing is it, well, first is oxidation, but really it's about purification. So, you know, that's why our stuff is more expensive, because we filter it down several times to get to just THC, and then we add back the virgin botanically derived terpenes to get the strain type effects, to get the you
The
know the
terpene
indica
profile.
sativa, the
I'm gonna
taste and all that.
I'm gonna ask Chris when we get him on the show the same question, but is there a difference between terpenes derived from plants versus ones that are derived from cannabis itself?
No,
Everybody has a different answer.
no, it's a molecule. It's a molecule. It's, you know, so as long as it's derived from a natural source,
Mhm.
you know, it's the same. So, you know, whether it's a cannabis plant to get limonene, or a lime, or a lemon to get lemonine, myrcene, you know, those molecules are those molecules, and if they've been expressed by the genes of whatever plant you're extracting from, they're the same. Now, where we go awry, and I believe that's what you're referring to, is when you start doing conversions and doing a little human intervention with organic chemistry.
Genetically modified terpene bullshit.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yes, that's a different thing. I mean, I really am against you know, the Delta 8 and the Delta then the CBD converted. You know, you take CBD isolate and turn it into Delta 9, it'll
No,
test that
you
way.
don't. It's not play. Don't play God. I love you. I think you're probably one of my most favorite guests. Everything you say is golden aces.
So, you know, I mean, that is taking a natural product that's been perverted to get it to powder to start this, and then you completely get crazy, altering the chemical structure. Well, I don't give a shit that it came out of a hemp plant to start with. You've done so much to it
Just
that
bastardized it
it is no
completely.
longer stock terpene, right?
I
It
wouldn't
has
even
been
count it as
turned into,
cannabis anymore.
it's
It's so far from the
it's
plant.
I think it's a synthetic, and I think it's dangerous, and I don't support it. And it's not because I'm a cannabis guy and I hate hemp people. It's not it.
No.
Um, if they were, if hemp were subjected to the same rigors and standards and tests and
Yeah.
taxes that we are, I got no problem. I mean, you know, I mean, I do see a day years down the road where I could make our product from low potency hemp. I don't give a damn how I get my THC because I purify it all down. So if I can buy a train load of hemp material for $10 and it's economically feasible to extract it, even though it's only 2 or 3% THC, it doesn't matter, right? I would rather get it from cannabis because I have to process less slop, but you know, it's still natural, right? So this whole
Bratenberg for president, y'all. Like Bratenberg for president. Like I'm on board. Like I'll drink your Kool-Aid. I'm gonna follow you into a volcano, fight a bear for you. Like I am on board. I'm like one of
At
the
least
girls in the
helping to
Manson
make some of the
family.
policy on cannabis that people don't understand.
I just
yeah,
like what he says because it's exactly what I feel the same way. I feel like you're manipulating, creating the synthetic, and it's not what you should be doing. And you can't, just because you're not allowed to play with cannabis right now, and you can't go into the hemp space and turn it into some Franken product that ends up actually being more harm than good. But I would seriously just tell me where to sign up. I'll go out and canvas for you. I will go and what's it called? Caucus. Yeah, I'm gonna
right
get you on
on,
the
right on.
ballot. Like that's
You know,
it.
I when I was younger, I actually did think I wanted to be in politics, and you
I
know,
could see that.
uh, just being the president of my HOA is more than enough
That's
of
enough of like
frustration.
the yeah, you get your like your pumped up, fix.
I get my thing, you know,
You could either be
and
president or like a cult leader. Either way, I'm on board. I'll sign whatever, and you can have all my earthly possessions as long as we all make dresses made out of wheat and have our own film.
All right.
It'll
So
be
Rich,
great.
I veered us away from the comedy thing because I wanted to talk a little bit more about cannabis. But going back to the
Right.
comedy thing, I want to know who's your favorite comedian of both all time and then current comedian right now, if they're different.
All time is a friend of mine, and probably the one that I consider to be the most brilliant. Not really that famous. His name is Will Durst. He's out of San Francisco. Um, my favorite comic, probably a toss up between Christopher Titus and Tom Papa.
Really? Tom Papa
Yeah.
I'll give you, but Titus, he's from isn't he from no Tosh. Daniel Tosh is from Titusville.
Tosh, yeah, Daniel Tosh. Tosh is good too, but
Titus is okay. He had his own show.
You got, yeah, and he's got great stories about how he messed that up. But I like in particular Titus and Durst because they're very prolific. You can go see Titus every 6 months and it's going to be 95% different show every time. So I appreciate the work that he does, puts into writing.
I saw Tom Segura live and they wouldn't even let you have your phone out.
Yeah, they put it in a yonder bag and
no, they just they kicked you out if you had your phone out, even before he was on stage. And you could not take photos, you couldn't record. But like even before he was on stage, you're in an amphitheater that looks like a lunchroom, it's like a high school amphitheater, and you can't even play on your phone before the show, or else you got kicked out by the comedy police.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of rooms now they put it in this yonder bag. It's a neoprene bag that you can't open, and you can keep your phone, but you can't get to it. My favorite comedian of all time is George Carlin, hands down.
Okay.
I mean, he was always so angry. He was so fussy.
He got angrier as he got older.
Isn't that the way that life goes, though? Like, isn't that the way that, like, eventually, you'll be an angry old man. Like, yeah. It's just good.
Oh, my kids will tell you I'm already an angry old.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Well, this was such a pleasure talking with you, and learning about what you've done so far in the cannabis space makes me excited to see what the future holds for the I guess the Batenburg family. You never know. Yeah. Maybe your son, maybe you're building a legacy type brand, which is going to be iconic and last a long time. So I can't wait to see how many generations of Batenburgs join the family in the cannabis space. So thank you for coming on and talking with us. I know our listeners are going to love it.
I hope so. I have a tendency, if they don't, then you can prescribe it for insomnia,
No, they can just kick rocks. And if you want to learn more about the Clear brand, what is the website?
The Clear Brands, plural, theclearbrands.com.
We will link it in the description below the show when this goes up. And this is Cynthia Brewer signing off for the Marijuana Mind and my amazing co-host. I have no adjective. Go ahead, Justin.
You always have I'm waiting for I need you to say it.
No. Yes. No, you have to say it. It's your sign off.
No, I never say it.
Keeping it lean, keeping it
lean, keeping it green as always.
I thought there was one more. Keeping it mean, keeping it lean, keeping it green.
No, that's you always having the spleen, my spleen. Okay.
Jay Nasty.
But I was waiting for the the Jay Nasty thing because I feel like I can't say that about myself. I need you to say it.
You can't say it about yourself. J Dog, Jay Nasty, if you're familiar. All right. We will talk to you next week. Thanks again, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Have
a great one.